Unfortunately, stalking documentaries aren't that rare, but in the Netflix doc, Can I Tell You a Secret?, we're told the story of how social media became the conduit for misery. 3 women's lives are changed forever when a prolific stalker infiltrates their social media accounts, and they're only a fraction of his many victims. This is a 2-episode docuseries that in total is about an hour and 40 minutes in length. Now, I'm not sure why it's split up, but the story is told in 2 parts. The first from 3 stalking victims' perspectives, and then from the investigative side. Now, we're told in a lot of detail how Abby, Zoe, and Leah all fell prey to an online stalker who started out the majority of the contacts with something similar to, "Can I tell you a secret?" or "I have something to tell you. Can you be trusted?" Now, for me, in my cynical manner, I just report the text as spam and then block the number. But I think that even if these women had chosen that route, they'd still end up being harassed in horrendous ways. Now, the way this is shot and produced, it's beautiful. It has a very cinematic quality to just about every aspect. And I like that this looks great. But this also tends to sway into the style over substance area, and that has a detrimental effect on the overall storytelling. Now, the accounts that we get from the 3 women, they're detailed and they're intriguing, but they're also freaky at how viral the stalker's behavior was. I mean, it was prolific and thorough, engaging family members, colleagues, semi-acquaintances, even employers. The level of dedication to the deviant behavior, it was obsessive and deep, which also then creates the sense of real fear that if the stalker went to all that trouble to loop in extremely close contacts, what heinous things could they be planning? Now, as much as I appreciate the information that we get from the women's individual stories, a lot of time is spent going over areas that become redundant and repetitive. Many, many minutes could be shaved from the first part to shore up the narrative while not skimping on actual details. And a lot of this also would come about if the production focused less on showing these ongoing graphics of lights that are traveling across phone lines. I mean, I get it. They're illustrating how the messages would branch out and then multiply. Good gravy, though. We see the same set of animations at least 10 times in that first half alone. These are unnecessary, and they don't add anything to the actual content. And if the filmmakers really needed to have some of that really in there, we certainly didn't need it to that degree. And then the documentary also falls into that same sort of repetitive rut in the second half. We're shown and told very similar accounts and moments repeatedly. I mean, yeah, it does go to show a pattern of behavior, but that had already been established in the first half. With the investigation, some portions give us details so we can be frustrated along with the victims, and at other times we're just shown more beauty shots of locations or driving montages. And again, these don't support the storytelling in a large way, so minimizing these would have helped to move the story along more efficiently. There are even a couple of identically repetitive moments that come across almost like mistakes. Now, in one, a suspect accidentally does something and we're both told about it and shown it by a victim. Then several minutes later, we're told about it and shown it once again from law enforcement. I mean, the way it's presented to us, it feels as though they thought they were presenting us with brand new information. Now, I do know that I've listed several negatives for this, but the story itself is very intriguing and I think could be used as sort of a cautionary tale. Now, the doc doesn't really go into that territory, but it can certainly be inferred from the content. And I also appreciate how emotionally vulnerable the interviews are. I mean, enough time is taken with them as they tell their accounts that we can see the anguish and even fear that they experienced. Some of them also had disheartening and frustrating interactions with law enforcement when they reported the stalkings. And then luckily, one of the 3 victims had some experience that helped greatly once an investigation finally began. So overall, Can I Tell You a Secret employs stellar cinematography and beautifully captured interviews, but tends to prefer style over substance, stretching out a harrowing account unnecessarily. With a first part rich with detailed accounts and a second part focused on investigation, we expect an in-depth, highly engaging series. But with repetitive imagery and a lengthy narrative, we're left with a mundane doc that lulls the audience to sleep. I wish this had focused a little less on the style and more on the dangers and consequences that arose. But that being said, it's still not a bad documentary. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and no violence. As a reminder, I don't give couch ratings to documentaries, but this is just an okay one to check out at some point. Alright, so what are you binging right now? Anything that you can recommend in the comments below? If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.